This is the Reporter's Notebook, hosted by Elaine Shein.
Welcome to this entry in the DTN Reporter's Notebook. DTN Senior Ag Meteorologist Bryce joins us today, and we're looking at what is the outlook for the fall season. What's the main feature that you're seeing for the fall?
Hey, guess what, Elaine? Warm and dry, when it's all said and done. Now, the month of October may give a little bit of a cooling trend for just a short period of time. But as we look ahead to the fall season, the main thread that we've had really for over a year, when you think about it, going clear back to the springtime of the year 2011, above normal temperatures, and not just a little bit above, but several degrees above, a big step above normal, and then generally dry conditions over the predominant central part of the U.S. Those are still the main features. It still looks to be a very sparse round of precipitation when we think about the fall season of 2012.
Now, we've been seeing a lot of discussion on El Nino starting up again. Is it starting up?
El Nino is trying to get going in the Pacific. The water temperatures are running about 1.5 degrees Celsius above normal, and they have been for several months. One thing that's been fairly difficult to get going consistently, though, is the corresponding trade wind patterns that go along with that above normal temperature. That would be a general west to east jet stream flow. And the indicators measured by such features as the Southern Oscillation Index that the Australian Meteorological Bureau keeps track of, those numbers have not been truly consistent with an El Nino. We see maybe about a week or so of barometric values that go along with this westerly wind track. And then we'll go through a few days where everything just kind of almost fizzles out. And this back and forth means that the real consistent El Nino presentation still is not there.
So what are you expecting for precipitation for the fall? Well,
this is where things get a little bit dicey, and part of that is because the El Nino winds have not been consistent in terms of their direction toward North America, and thus bringing in some moisture. It does look like, as we go through the fall season, that in the southeastern U.S. and even in portions of the southern Midwest, thinking here about southern Illinois, the lower Ohio Valley, the northern Delta, that there could be some improvement on rainfall and precipitation, possibly in the Texas Gulf Coast as well. But there's going to be so much of the central U.S., I would say from about Lafayette, Indiana, on west all the way to Denver, Colorado, and from southern South Dakota and southern Minnesota south into northern and central Texas, where drought conditions continue to be a big feature, very little improvement the way this pattern is shaping up.
Now, speaking of the drought, we've had it in some places a couple years already, and there's been some talk on whether that drought can continue another year yet. Is that possible?
It certainly is. One very interesting research project that was done by contributing analyst Joel Carlin recently that he submitted to us here at DTN shows that when you look at the droughts that have happened since the late 1890s, here in the continental U.S., there have been 11 really major droughts, like the one that we're just going through now. And the least amount of time that an event like that has hung around has been almost a year and a half. And when you look at what happened back in the 1930s and the 1950s, those droughts lasted anywhere from almost 4 years to over 4 years. And so what that message is that this circumstance is not one that we're going to get out of in a real short period of time. And even in 1988, that was the most recent real hallmark drought that a lot of us have looked at this season. Even in 1988, the following year, 1989, was still a pretty dry year as well. So those are some things that I think are very cautionary details regarding how we think about the duration of what we're involved with right now.
So I'm sure some farmers and ranchers will be bracing themselves in case that does happen.
They will, and it's going to make a difference, I think, in terms of how people take a look at obviously their cropping decisions for this next year, their grazing decisions, and it's also going to make a difference in even how people plan their marketing and their insurance programs.
Thanks, Bryce.
You're welcome.
With Bryce Anderson, I'm Elaine Shein, and that's today's entry in the DTN Reporter's Notebook. Thanks for joining us.
This has been the Reporter's Notebook from the DTN Progressive Farmer Newsroom.